Great.
Hello, everyone. We are hosted today at Leonard, the VINCI Innovation and Foresight platform. Among our activities, we have 2 startups programs, Seed, to help new startups structure their business plan, and Catalyst. The Catalyst program was launched in January and is designed to foster and accelerate partnerships between VINCI and startups and scale-ups in their commercial development phase. Today is the 4th of our 11 daily online presentation of startups from our Catalyst program and their exchanges with operational business units from VINCI. I would like to begin by thanking our panelists today and, of course, the audience for your virtual presence. Today, you'll hear Waycare's Head of Strategic Partnerships, Paul-Matthew Zamsky. He will exchange with Jérôme Pasteau, Department Manager at VINCI Autoroutes, and Pucéat, Director at VINCI Energies Power Mobility. We'll first hear the presentation of Waycare and its value proposition for 10 to 15 minutes. Then Jérôme and Bernard will explain their respective roles at VINCI. And after that, I do have some questions for them. You can also ask your question in the chat, and I will ask them to the panelists at the end of our exchanges. And during the presentation, you can click on the slides to see them in a bigger window. Paul, you have the floor.
Thank you, Louis. So nice to meet everybody here. As mentioned, my name is Paul Zamsky, Head of Strategic Partnerships here at Waycare. So I will be starting with a quick presentation for about 15 minutes of what Waycare does and who we are, and before we kind of jump into the panel discussion. So I am going to be sharing my screen right now. So okay. So just confirming that everybody can see it. Louis, if you can say yes.
It's perfect.
Perfect. So a little background about Waycare. We are a startup, kind of past the startup phase now. That's about 3.5 years old. We're headquartered in Tel Aviv, Israel, where now is our kind of R&D headquarters. And we opened recently, about 1.5 years ago, our Los Angeles offices, where I am now located. Actually at home, but we are kind of looking at how we can leverage advanced technologies to be able to improve traffic operations and traffic management. I think just kind of starting where Waycare stems from, it's important to kind of look at what we were trying to fix and kind of identify in regards to traffic operations. So primary goal of Waycare is to reduce traffic fatalities and traffic crashes on the road. That's the #1 goal, and that's what we're trying to achieve every day by taking advantage of these technologies. And what we said is that let's look at how current operations are being run, and what are the different areas that we can bring in technology that is available for startups and that is being used in other places into the traffic operations. So what we saw, first of all, is extremely siloed data. Especially in the US, where I'm located right now, you have many different agencies, many different jurisdictions, and none of this data is communicating to the way that we want to. So we're looking at, states, cities, counties, each with their own roads that can pass and cross each other's jurisdictions, and each have their own systems, but none of it is communicating. The second issue that we saw is really, the underutilization of it in vehicle data. So today we're relying on hardware, sensors and cameras to be able to really understand what's going on the road. And this is great, but these are mostly focused on major arterials. Unfortunately, to understand what's happening on the surface streets or areas where you might have a little bit less traffic or less coverage, we are seeing a lack of infrastructure necessary there to understand what's happening, because it's costly, it's time consuming, and it's a lot of work to be able to install that on all the different roads out there. So what Waycare said is that let's look at how we can bring in a fully cloud-based solution that's fully, like one system that every single user in the agency can log in and collaborate on one platform, and break down those silos that are out there. So what we did is we developed a platform that leverages in-vehicle data as one of the sources of data, integrates to the city's infrastructure, and on top of it brings in advanced analytics. The issue being is that with these vast amounts of data that we're talking about and additional data that we're seeing every day incorporated into traffic operations, we're limited by the ability to understand what is happening with this data. And traffic engineers are kind of forced to look at many different screens where they have to try to juggle between, okay, making sense of, traffic, cameras, weather, and not really being able to do what they do best because they need to kind of search and make sense of it. So what Waycare has done is not only synthesized and brought together all this information, but created an extensive list of algorithms that are able to help surface up information to help support operations and create better traffic operations. These algorithms are both in real time and forward-looking. So we're talking about incident identification, so detecting where crashes are happening using in-vehicle data and AI. Identified, impacts of incidents. When a crash happens, what are the zones that are going to be impacted? What are the nearby streets that are going to be impacted? And also try to shift from a reactive to a proactive approach in traffic operations by predicting in the near-term future where crashes are most likely going to happen, where incidents most likely going to happen, and how we can help allocate resources accordingly and help shift from a reactive to proactive. So with all these different algorithms and all these different insights, Waycare really puts itself at that junction of the existing infrastructure, which is a strong, reliable source that we want to leverage and take advantage of. So the advanced traffic management system, which is typically the software that manages most of the assets and hardware and basic traffic operations, but as well bring in this vast amounts of external data. The important part is that Waycare does not do any hardware. So we don't do any installation. We don't do any installation in the vehicles nor within the cities. What we do is we integrate to these different systems. We integrate to these different also external data sets, and we create partnerships with a slew of in-vehicle data providers. These in-vehicle data providers are kind of a spectrum of the type of data. So we're talking about, the most prolific and most widely available is crowdsourced GPS data. So Waze, INRIX here. These are information that we can get both, directly from vehicles as well as cell phones and other GPS devices. But as well, we're working with telematics providers. So any type of fleet vehicle that has more than typically 5 vehicles has some sort of tracking device on them. If it may be an OBD2 dongle or some other connected device in the vehicle, so that the fleet managers are able to see what's going on in the fleet. But this information, these aftermarket telematics, are a great source of understanding of contextual driving behavior, harsh braking zones, origin destination, and can be unlocked through the partnership with companies such as Geotab, Green Road, or Zuby. This is all, of course, anonymized and aggregated, and our goal is really to be able to make sure that we just get the data for telemetrics purposes and nothing related to sensitive information. We're also working with connected car services such as Autonomo and Wejo, who are kind of creating that first step connected car abilities for OEMs, and as well working with OEMs ourselves to enable a growth of the type of data that we can get from the vehicles themselves as more connected cars are hitting the road and being commercialized out there today. The goal really being here is to look at these vehicles as a virtual sensor for the city, state, or road authority and say, why can we not just leverage this in-vehicle data really as that source and help either supplement or replace some existing costly infrastructure and be able to say this is a constantly evolving and improving source of data that can give us rich information. Today it's telematics, it's contextual driving behavior. Tomorrow it's going to be airbag deployment. It's going to be G-forces that can indicate to the driver, to the traffic management, if there was an incident, if the airbag was deployed, how many people are still in the vehicle, and really help enrich that type of information out there. As well as when Waycare deploys, we're not only looking at one agency in the traffic operations, we want to make sure that we get data from all these different ecosystems. So we're talking about weather, we're talking about events, we're talking about police CAD systems, we're talking about social media, to be able to leverage this information to really make better decisions and be able to be more informed. A good example is social media. Social media has been actually a source of incident detection that was extremely successful because people end up, I know in the US that's kind of what's happening, but it is kind of crazy. People post to social media sometimes before they go ahead and even call 911. So what that has created is the Waycare core system and different modules out there. The goal being to create modules for the different agencies that are related to traffic operations, and with these different modules, be able to collaborate and work together. So we're talking about traffic management solutions. So that Smart Connect platform, which is in the TMC, this is a desktop-based platform that you log in simply by accessing your browser, and then respective solutions for service patrol, which is the tow trucks on the side of the roads, first responders such as law enforcement or emergency services that can access the devices directly from their tablets or MDCs, so mobile data computers, or any type of data-enabled devices, and other solutions that we've created for maintenance or transit, which all have an impact on traffic and understanding. And what we've seen is really this collaboration and this type of work has enabled, has created whole new processes that include, unified command, that include better resource allocation, that include, incident impact on transit and transit priority. There's a lot of different use cases. I'm not going to dwell into them too much right now, but feel free to ask if you have any questions to reach out to me post presentation with specific use cases. What's important to understand is, these insights are all here to be able to help the traffic operations and traffic management do their job better and be better informed. Examples being, incident detection. So we're talking about really trying to take advantage of all these sources of data to really identify not only an incident before they called into 911, but really pinpoint on the system where the location of this incident is, where are the areas that are going to be impacted, how can we communicate to the public through partnerships such as Waze, where we push information back to the drivers, and how do we identify the resources on the ground, where they're located, how to allocate them, and have that bridge between the windshield view that the on the ground personnel has to that 30,000 foot view that the traffic operation has. So for incident detection, for example, what we've seen is by using in-vehicle data, we detect incidents on average 9 to 10 minutes faster. We're detecting incidents before people get out of their vehicles or call into 911. And this is a combination of many different sources. But not only that, we're detecting 20 to 30% more incidents that would ever be discovered. In places like Vegas, where we actually have abandoned vehicles, objects that fall onto the road, we're detecting these type of warnings and incidents that will be relevant for the traffic operations to be able to understand and respond faster and help clear out the road and reduce these chances of secondary crashes. In regards to the predictions, and I think this is a really interesting part of what Waycare is doing, is we're trying to help really identify in the near-term future where these areas at risk are going to be. The predictions that Waycare is providing is not just a statistical analysis saying that over the last 10 years on the second Monday in March, this is where we saw crashes. That is a great start, and this is a great benefit for traffic operations. But what we see is that we want to help dynamically identify these zones at risk over the next 2 hours, the near-term future. So building on a model that is unique for each road, we build a historic model. From historic data, we build a model that is trained, that is taking this information, and we bring in real-time conditions to be able to dynamically understand what's going on. Real-time conditions, we're talking about crashes, congestion, events that are happening, and as well as any ecosystem type of information. So weather, seasonality, sunrise angle, if there's a football game, who's winning, who's losing, if the home team is winning, losing, all of these minute and small interactions that will have a chance and an impact on crashes. So what we do by doing though is allocate identify these segments of road, 1 to 2 miles, depending on how rural we are. And with that, position police officers so that they can help prevent those crashes from happening, be highly visible, and help warn the drivers that they're going through a zone at risk. A couple of really cool results of this is that because it's fully dynamic, we can see based on changes in current behavior how these predictions change. And typically you'll have that regular 9 a.m. or 5 p.m. rush hour traffic. But what we've seen recently with the coronavirus is with no traffic, these predictions that are completely changing because we're identifying what are the segments of road that are the highest risk, not because of traffic or behavior, but rather because of the speeding and the current conditions. So we're identifying more rural roads or areas where they have less traffic typically, because these are right now the areas that the system has identified at risk. What's important is with these predictions is really find not only a way to allocate resources and warn and make any changes to the infrastructure, but our goal is really to send this information back to the drivers through partnerships with some sort of in-vehicle experience. The goal being that the drivers are warned, you're in a zone at risk, you are at an intersection at risk, be extra attentive and hopefully be able to reduce crashes like that. Some of the results that we've been able to witness are, first of all, a reduction in crashes. So in the segments of road where we've identified segments of road at risk, we positioned police officers, as I said, just before that area at risk. We saw that 91% of drivers over the speed limit showing up to that zone went back down to the speed limit, and the 17% reductions. The interesting part is that they actually speed up again once they pass that zone, because you see that police officer and then you kind of pass and you speed up again. But we did not see any increase in crashes after that. The interesting part is that it really is that location, that kind of combination of all these different types of factors that really make this area at risk. Of course, there's anecdotal evidence, and it's important to look at, what police know and what they're used to knowing. But it's really important to look at what we're trying to do here is uncover something that is really beyond the capability of humans to process and understand. And with these vast amounts of additional data and vast amounts of information coming in, how can we go ahead and allocate the resources accordingly to be able to understand, okay, well, this is the small types of changes that we can do to help impact positively. I'm going to be closing up on my last few minutes. Just a bit of background. We are deployed within the U.S. within 4 states already. So in Nevada, Ohio, Missouri, and Florida. We're going to be kicking off about 3 other states before the end of the year. We are also kicking off in Ayalon, which is like the periphery of Tel Aviv in Israel now in June. And we will be kicking off a project in Thailand and Bangkok by the end of the year. So with that time, that's my 15 minutes. I will, if anybody has any questions or.
Thank you, Paul. We'll come to the questions in a short bit. Jérôme, thank you for joining. Can you shortly describe your role at VINCI? Then I'll go on to Bernard.
Okay, I think I understood your question, Louis, because we can't hear you very well. So I'm Jérôme Pasteau. I'm in charge of traffic management systems at VINCI Autoroutes. So VINCI Autoroutes, to make short, is represent half of the highways in France, with 4,400 kilometers of highways. How many minutes do I have? Can I introduce the different objectives we have?
Yeah, I will let Bernard present himself, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, ça va. Okay.
So Bernard, same question.
Yes, hi. My name is Bernard Pucéat. I am a director inside the VINCI Power Mobility organization. I have in my portfolio the mobility ITS entity. This entity designs and develops traffic management solutions. The solution is named Atway. And our customers are states, motorway operators, and cities.
Perfect, thank you. So, yeah, Jérôme, please take a few minutes to explain the challenges of your job, and maybe elaborate on the tools that you already have and where you think there is room for improvement.
Okay. Yes, so I was just saying that I'm in charge of the tools we use to manage the traffic. So we have classical and different goals to have a fluid traffic as much as possible, to monitor the incidents, as you said, Paul, to be able to react very quickly and first of all detect an incident and then manage the incidents and inform the customers and be able to say to the customers, stay on the highway or get out of the highway, because we have a visibility of this situation. So we have improved a lot for the last 2 years, because 2 years ago we had, as you said, less information than the social media on our network, which is quite paradoxical, because we still have very old school solutions to detect a car from equipment under the highway, etc. So we still use these equipment. We use a lot of sensors, but today the most efficient, as you said, are what comes from the vehicle itself. So now we are better. We have the same information, or a little bit more than the social media. Where we would like to go further is to natively get in-vehicle data. We have a big hurdle there. We don't have access natively to these data. So we need to pass through laws to compel the OEMs to give their data, especially to operators like us. What we'd like to improve is to get natively the car data and to better predict the consequences of an incident. To be honest with you, I don't really believe in AI approaches, because we have a lot of incidents every day. The predictability of the major incidents we have is a truck, when a truck gets upside down on the highway, and we have to close the highways for 2, 3, 4 hours. This is not really predictable. Of course, you can take into account the weather, etc. You have special conditions, but it's very difficult. So we are trying to work on the modelization part to say, okay, if we have an incident, what is the consequence in terms of traffic for the next 2 hours? Because if we have this vision, we'll be able to take the good decision. And we don't have the solution yet. But I've worked a lot about AI, and AI needs for me to have a lot of events in the past to be able to predict the future. And I don't believe in an AI which can predict me that in 2 hours from now, I will have at this point probably a truck which will get out of the road. That's our difficulty. So difficulty to predict, difficulty to get the information from the vehicle, but it's not a technical difficulty. And we also work on the autonomous vehicles. So we have a step ahead with a new role for the highway, which is not to look at the traffic, but to monitor, to manage the traffic. That's the next step for the long term, the long haul.
Paul, on the first step, what is your position on this AI and Jérôme's position, and how do you think also Waycare could address the other points that Jérôme told us about?
So 100%. First of all, thank you for kind of giving me a little background on what you kind of are looking to achieve, what you've done, and your views on AI. I 100% agree with you that we're not looking at a granular one, oh, this crash type will happen. As you say, you need vast amounts of information. You need certain amount of historic data. And that's an issue we see a lot with surface streets. So if you have a city that has 20 crashes a day, and they're like, well, I want to predict where these crashes are going to happen.
You're right.
20 crashes a year,
Right.
It's impossible. So what we're trying to do here is twofold with the AI. One is process this data. The issue that we're running into today is we are getting more and more data from these vehicles from different sensors on the road. So for example, when we deployed in Vegas, they had 20 gigabytes of data a day, and they were overwhelmed. And with the new connected cars and autonomous vehicles, we're looking at 1 terabyte every few hours to one, maybe a day. And to leverage and process this data, this is where AI applications and AI capabilities are really the core. So saying, okay, not about predicting or having to say what is going to happen at that location, or trying to foresee the future. It's actually making sense of this information and surfacing it up in a way that is digestible for the users. So what we see is when you get vast amounts of information, the operators need to try to understand and really kind of surface and look at that. And not only that, is compare it to the other sources. So we're saying that it's hard to predict, for sure. It is hard to predict, and that's why we think, you know, what we're doing is pretty great and it works well. But what we're saying is these are the areas at risk based on all these factors, and factors that we have not considered until today. An example here in the US is police have crash data. The city has the construction data. None of them have the weather data. So suddenly they try to say, well, we're looking at patterns and you just cannot compare these data sets. It gets iffy. So once we can start really looking at these data sets as one holistic view in traffic operations, that enables us to say, okay, well, these are right now the zones at risk. These are the areas that we need to focus on, because we might not predict that one truck that's going to flip over on the road, but if we can reduce those 20% of bumper to bumper vehicles that will have a significant impact on congestion, on secondary crashes, on rerouting, then we can go ahead and do some significant impact on that. In regards to the impact analysis, that's actually, it's pretty great. That's something we're looking at right now, and we're going to be launching. It's kind of there, which it hasn't been launched yet, but the idea being is when a crash happens, there's two types of way of looking at it. You have the medical law enforcement way of saying it's a severe crash, someone unfortunately fatality or some severe injuries. This is a severe crash. But what's severe for them is not severe for the roadway operators. What's severe for the roadway operators is what's the impact on my my network? Where are people going to be rerouted? How's that going to impact the bus system that is suddenly going to have all these people driving off into the city to try to get off the freeway and come back? And what we've been doing is create a using telematics, an impact indicator to say, okay, well, immediately when that incident happens, from a scale, from 1 to 10, how impactful is this incident? And what are the surface streets that are going to be the most impacted, or the nearby streets where you're going to have increased congestion, as well as increased secondary crashes? Where are those places where one thing is happening that will impact the other? And that's where AI is. And the main part I would say about AI that we really kind of rely on, and AI is, again, it's hard because it's a term that is being loosely used by many different things, is the ability for the system, honestly, to really learn on its own from these new inputs of data and these new sources of data. So we really want to say is that we constantly update this data sets, we constantly bring in new data, leverage the existing sensors, which are, of course, are extremely valuable, and be able to make better decisions based on that.
Jérôme, before I turn to Bernard, you have a comeback after that?
Well, in the past I worked on the railway, so we had also problems to predict traffic times, and for me it was really very difficult, but still more simple than the road traffic, which is on 2 dimensions. So you can imagine our challenge. So I know quite well the AI mechanisms, the data it needs to be really efficient, etc. So at VINCI, we are very concrete. We try to say, I don't want you. You made a very wide presentation, which is good, but we try to solve very specific problems. We don't believe that we can predict an incident on the road because we don't have enough. We also have the knowledge and the know-how of the operators. They operate every day the road. So if it's raining, they know by themselves that they will have probably incidents, and they prepare themselves for that. Our main objective today is to say, if I have an incident at this point, it is the starting point. It is raining. It is 5 p.m. There are a certain number of vehicles on the road. What will be the jams? The evolution of the jam, and which decisions should I take now to avoid a worse decision, to avoid the secondary accidents, etc. So if I have a tool like that, which is something very concrete, it can be a success story.
Bernard, you at VINCI Energies, you're also working on traffic management tools and software. Can you tell us more about that before going back to this discussion?
Yes, for a lot of years we are working, and we have developed a solution. As I mentioned, this solution is Atway. It's a solution, it's a modular solution, and there is some similitudes, there is some overlaps with the Waycare solutions, but we don't see Waycare as a competitor for us. So we think we can develop a partnership, and it can be a development accelerator for Atway. As I say, it's Waycare and Atway are modular solutions, so we can mix our module to address a specific project. For instance, Atway has a big experience in Europe, especially on operating procedures. And today we have not the predictive tools in that way. So I think if we combine predictive tools from Waycare with our tools, we can potentially give solutions for cities, especially cities. There is some reflections about that, and I think we will try to address this request from from our customer.
So Waycare is not a competitor for you. It could be a potential partner.
Yes, that's right.
That's correct. From what I understand, Atway is a really real traffic management solution, ATMS. From what I kind of see, a lot of hardware and asset management, which is and kind of flow and a lot of the traffic management operations. And we work with systems like that to be able to kind of really bring in the insights and the in-vehicle data side and supplement into it. And the idea would be to create some sort of bi-directional integration with such a system, for sure.
And Paul, you saw that so Jérôme has tools and is needing maybe a new brick or something other than what he has. Bernard is the same. What is usually your process to integrate with a new client, such as VINCI, for example?
Good question, and kind of that goes back to what the last point that Jérôme had. What we do, what I'm presenting here is a 15-minute presentation of 3 years of work, which makes it hard to go and dive deep into each specific projects and specific needs. So from proactive policing to transit optimization to current COVID works that we're doing around pass-bys with transit. Each one of these use cases have been developed with our clients based on their needs. And it's important for us to know that each city and each region has its specific needs. Each road is unique. Vegas is not Tampa, which is not Paris, which is not Shanghai. And when we deploy, what we do is three kind of steps. First of all, is look at the existing infrastructure, see the type of systems that they have, and see, okay, how do we integrate and how do we make each other's systems complementary? We're not here to replace something. We're here to be able to say, let's enhance and let's bring in on top of it and really create something that's going to be a solution that's the best for the users, managers, and executives at the end of the day. So we look at that first. Second of all, we say, okay, let's create a proof of concept where we say 1 or 2 KPIs that we want to achieve day one and at the end of the proof of concept. So for example, incident detection. So we want to detect more incidents and faster. Day one of Waycare deployed, that's something we can do. We show the results, and throughout that period, then we say, well, we also want to showcase the use of predictive analytics for resource allocations and positive impact on crashes or traffic. That gives a whole proof of concept time for us to work and iterate on these type of scenarios. The important part is, we do have a commercial off-the-shelf solution, but we are modular. We work, hand in hand to figure out those use cases. So once we identify those KPIs, we typically deploy and integrate within 2 months. We can be fully live. We haven't done it in Europe yet, so that might be something that I would not commit to on day one. but our latest platform, that's going to be the version 2.0, which is launching now, should be able to be even deployed within a week. And from there on, kind of work on an iterative approach. Okay, project one, deployment one, and it's a SaaS model, so you kind of create a license and some sort of ongoing product for this need. And as we go along and as we identify the next step, what we want to work on, if it's construction zones, if it's transit, if it might be weather-related events, or if concert management, event type of management, these type of things are developed as we go along.
Jérôme, on your side, what would be the first thing you could or you wanted to try with Waycare regarding the KPI Paul described?
KPIs and objectives, I can imagine a lot. I'm also rapidly in the projects phase, because you will need data, and usually people like you are very capable, very clever, very great references, but they always end up saying, "I'm not sure what will be the result." It's almost impossible to do a promise based on AI, because you have data, and the quality of data can be not optimistic, or the quantity, or our capacity to give you the data, or to get the data and then to give you the data, etc. So, of course, I can express an objective, a dream, but I have a past of 25 years in the IT, so I'm rapidly in the reality and trying to think, okay, let's express something that I estimate feasible. So as I said, the challenge we have today is to say, okay, if we imagine that we have enough data in the past, but that we can give you the data so that you can train your model, your engine. If you can promise me that you will be able to tell me that starting from precise situation, what will be the future in the next 2 hours, that's very useful for me.
And that is something, yeah, and that's a big part of when we do that initial scope, is look at, let's see, before deliverables, what you have, so we don't promise the world, and we say, well, suddenly you show up with PDF files of incident reports, and we're like, whoa, okay, which we've had that happen, and what we say is, okay, let's look at what it is and create that ongoing thing. But that I think that the predictive and the forward-looking insights is something that you guys are looking to showcase as a feasibility to work, skeptically, but feasibility to work is something that we fully believe in, for sure. That's something that that could be easily focused on.
We're not trying. We are really in the close to real time. We're not really interested in knowing how much will be the traffic in 1 week from now.
For sure.
But we have predictions.
Dynamic.
We're really on the dynamics, and on the next 2 hours, for example, if you look at the transit time, you use tools like Waze, and it's not the reality. It's the addition of the existing times. It's not the real time you will need in 2 hours. If your trip is 2 hours long, you know that your real time will be different from the prediction. We are trying to look at different approaches like simulation, modelization, or AI. Why not? To predict the next 2 hours, to take the best decision on traffic management. Concerning another aspect, which is the incident detection itself, we have a lot of systems. We have the people like Waze can give information. We have cameras and AI on the images, which is another system, but not everywhere, of course. We have our staff maybe on the road. We have maybe the e-call system in the most recent cars. You can push a button in case of incident, so that there are a lot of things. I don't know if you can, on this other part, if you have any idea of how we could improve the incident detection. It's another aspect.
100%. So the way we look at it, that there's two different ways. One is the synthesis of kind of the municipal city road data, so infrastructure that you may have, or it may be 911. I mean, 17, 18, which in France,
okay.
The call that could be integrated to the system. But what we're looking at in twofold on the in-vehicle data and those kind of external data sets is first of all the confirmed incidents. So you have these thresholds that for us are enough to say that this is a confirmed incident that you can dispatch someone to. So for example, two different sources of data indicating that there's hard braking scenarios and swerving, or that are, this is where the data team is really better at kind of explaining what those thresholds kind of can go. And that is enough to say, okay, well, there's a confirmed incident. We might not have it on camera. We have the precise location. We don't know the type of incident, but we can see that something happened over here. And you can then go ahead and confirm it on camera, or if resources nearby, do something with that.
As you mentioned earlier in the discussion, we would like to avoid being obliged to install a lot of equipment on the highway.
100%. That's a big issue that we have today, is the cost to that, and things are moving on pretty quickly, and every 2 years something new is coming out. But in regards to that incident, so you have the confirmed incident, something, for example, an airbag deployment is considered a confirmed incident in our mind. Then you have the unconfirmed incidents and kind of a notifications or these warnings that something is happening at that location. So combining multiple different sources of data and these different types of telematics information, we could say, well, there's a threshold that there's something that might be going on over here that we need to be aware of, or there is most likely something that is about to happen that we have not been aware of. So that is kind of considered this unconfirmed incident that is used to leverage other assets, if it may be cameras, to verify what's going on out there. In regards to Waze, so Waze is a great partner of ours. We work with them pretty closely. We ingest the Waze data, but what's important is that we also kind of clean it up. So Waze has a lot of information, but we want to make sure that what is provided, and if we confirm an incident from Waze, that it has been confirmed by at least 2 sources of data, so that it's enough that police can confidently go to that incident without feeling that they're going to be running around. Because a thing that we've seen in the US is Waze has been used, and a lot of these sources of data have been used, but they don't feel confident going to it if it's not been a 911 call. So what we do is we combine it with other sources of data. If it may be telematics, it may be infrastructure data, or some other notifications out there, confirm that incident, and also clean up what's in Waze. So push that back to Waze. So if we get a confirmed incident or an incident detected from a 911 call, we'll push it back to Waze. If we think that an incident has been closed or resolved or did not happen, we can go ahead and update Waze. Same thing with construction, road zones, construction zones, and these type of updates over there. Nope, can't hear you.
Louis, you're silent. Totally.
About that. I was muted. Bernard, if you want to weigh in at some point, don't hesitate. Just before that, I had a question on the chat. For Paul, how many people work at Waycare at the moment?
30 right now, mostly still in Israel, about 20 people over there, data, algorithms, they have the whole technical team. And in the US, it's our about 10 right now, which is our business and kind of marketing team.
They're not regarding use cases, or if in fact things you would like to try with Waycare. Can you tell us a bit more?
Yes, Jérôme said the same use case that we had in mind. That means traffic predictive for the next 2 hours. The first, and the second is to. Some operators want to manage a biggest area than they can do it today, because there are not enough equipment to capture data. So with Waycare solutions, with FCD especially, we can bring to the operator new data, and so they can have informations, data, surely less reliable, but it could be more efficient than today's. Some area for operators, they have no equipment, so they can't manage correctly, properly their area.
Perfect.
One thing that we found really interesting, and the US is a good example for that. You have a lot of rural roads. Just example, Vegas, you have the city of Vegas and they have the desert all around. And installing hardwares and cameras is costly and really hard to manage. And that has been really good use cases to kind of the rural vision zero that we've talked about in the US. So how do you actually take these processes back to those rural communities and areas with less coverage for that? And in regards to, I think, to what we kind of talk about in regards to the in-vehicle data part, it's important to understand that I know that you were saying that it's hard sometimes with OEMs to figure out, how to get that data from them. What we've realized, and a lot of people say in the US, that the government is the slowest at understanding technology, but in my mind, I think that the government has understood it pretty quickly and is just trying to figure out how to get it out and how to do it in a procurement fashion. But the OEMs, on the other hand, might be kind of confused about what's going on in the ability with their data sets. There's really three ways to look at it. You have the marketplace, everything you can purchase in your cars, connected vehicles, and infotainment and all that, but then the really safety and the routing side. And the safety and routing side for them is going to be something that if they can find a good use case for their users, they're going to want to be able to transfer and have that bidirectional communication. So let's say, for example, you are a satellite radio vehicle provider and you get data to the city, you get insights back, you can find a way to really benefit your users in the most efficient way possible. And we've seen that. And we have a list of partners already in Europe that are ready to go, from telematics to OEMs, both in Germany, France, and Italy, that are ready to go and saying, we want to do these proof of concepts. And then the last part I think that is really important is to understand that future for autonomous vehicles. The commercialization of autonomous vehicles are going to need to happen with the road operators being fully aware of what's going on the roads. In the US, we had the example of the Bird or Lime scooters, where these companies basically deployed them and threw them out on the streets, and everybody was really angry. They're like, how the hell is there no regulation? How do we see what's going on? What is the management of that? And I think that was a real catalyst to understand that the cities are not going to let autonomous vehicles, be mass commercialized on the roads and be kind of just going and driving around without that ability to have that communication regulated and manage it. And technology like ours, or some other connected vehicle technologies that are enabling this type of communication, is going to be crucial and critical to ensure that full commercialization and leveraging of that to the most of their ability. That's for sure.
Thank you, Paul. If the audience has some questions, they can ask it in the chat. If someone wants more info or to get in touch with Waycare and Paul, you can do so in the expo section. After our exchanges, you have booth for every startup from the Catalyst program. I will also ask the panelists to leave their email in the general chat. So if you want to contact them directly, please feel free. I will also leave mine after. Just to answer Ciro, we are now exploring use cases with VINCI, and we have not yet signed any partnership with Waycare. We are in the discussion phase, and I hope that we'll be able to see Paul in person at the end of September, where he can travel again. I'll put my email. I think we have been pretty clear and pretty complete, because there is no question right now in the chat. There was one, but we answered it. And So with that, thank you to the panelists. Thank you guys to have took the time to discuss this this innovative solution. Tomorrow we have the next panel at the same time, and it will feature Kenzen, a biometric enterprise platform relying on a wearable smart patch to prevent heat-related fatigue or overexertion within industrial and construction workforces. So really, thank you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.